right, well, let's get started. We've already prayed. Now, here's the problem. I know I'm in a Catholic setting because all the saints are in the front row. So you're in for it. So I'm going to come join you guys, and we're going to sing Kumbaya. Yeah. I don't even know what that means, really. Is this okay? Can you hear me good still? All right. Well, very good. So as we continue to come up here, we're going to have more and more kids per speaker. So Joe has 5. 2 of them are at my house right now. I have 6 girls. So Joe dropped off 2 more girls for me. So there's like 9 girls at my house, including my wife. Oh, you've got one of mine. See, I don't even know where my kids are. That's another talk. Do you know where your children are right now? So I do have 6 daughters, my wife and I. And the oldest is 12. Her name is Joan. The youngest is 18 months now. Her name is Helen. And so it's Joan, Ann, Joan, Ann, Claire, Ada, Emma, Helen. So they're all saints' names. I'm a convert to the faith, and I came into the church in 2008. Their names would be totally different. They wouldn't be saints if I wasn't Catholic, as far as their names go. Now, so I'm very fortunate, though. Number one, honest to goodness, because you're here. Thank you for your support. Thanks for being here. We didn't know what to expect. But I'll tell you, so far, every conversation that we've had before we came here to talk, we were outside just everywhere. You guys are awesome. Ozona is a beautiful place. I live in Rowena, my wife and I. If you know Rowena, it's not a big town. There is a blinking light, and it blinks most of the time. And, we got Lakey Steakhouse, so that's what we're famous for. So we thought, either's fine. Either's fine, thanks. I kind of like it where you couldn't see me so well. Can you kill one row?
Yeah. That or that? Oh.
I can't tell the difference, but okay. So I also chase squirrels too, so no more light changing. Okay, all right. But seriously, thank you for being here. We mean it from the bottom of our hearts. We started our apostolate. We didn't even call it an apostolate, and that's a big word. What does that mean? But when the bishop says it, that's what it is. It's an apostolate. So, but we're very similar to you guys. We found that out very quickly because you're doing this today. We live in the entertainment age. Joe talked about cell phones. This is it. We're in the entertainment. We were just having a conversation about this a second ago. There's nothing wrong with cell phones. There's nothing wrong with television. Those things are amoral. They have no morals. But it's what we choose and what we select. So thanks for being here, for choosing to be here today. You could have done anything else with your Saturday. I won't drone on about that. Thank you. Let me talk a little bit about Rome Boys and our credibility, because who the heck are the Rome Boys? And what we always say is who cares? But we put our stuff out there, and we've got a lot of great following. We've been able, very blessed, very fortunate to have speakers and theologians like Scott Hahn. That was our dream. Anyways, gosh, I said if we could get Scott Hahn, who's next, the Pope? We're so bold we're going to ask. So who knows? So you guys doing this is amazing. And I know we got some folks that are being confirmed soon. Yeah, please raise your hand proudly if you're being confirmed. Raise your hand proudly. I didn't say show me your elbow. I want to see your armpit, not your elbow. All right, cool. Awesome. Let me tell you, as an adult who came into the church, I didn't have the same experience that you're having right now. Don't take advantage of it. You being right here today tells a story about who you are as people. Your friends may not be here. Your cousins may not be here. Your parents may not be here, but you are. And that's amazing. You're making the right choices. I made a lot of bad choices, and I'm going to share those with you, okay? And sometimes it's tough for me to do, but I'm going to be vulnerable with you today. I'm vulnerable a lot of times, but I'm going to be especially vulnerable because of one thing, trust. And we wouldn't have that trust if we didn't have the same faith, okay? So thanks for being here. Thanks for allowing me to trust you, because we have that commonality of Catholicism. Today, we're trying to figure out what we're going to talk about, and we're working with Frank on what those topics would be. For me, I was told, not by Frank, but by Tony, because he keeps us in line, I promise you that. But how to be a godly parent, or just about being a godly parent. I may not have the 1, 2, 3s and ABCs, but I've got some things that I'm going to share from my experience that I believe our girls are set on the right path. Lord, I pray they are. But also, I wanted to add a godly grandparent too, because it's just as important. And how to be a godly spouse. That's a difficult challenge. Joe touched on that. Ladies, I feel for you. It's hard. Your goal is to get us to heaven, so good luck on you. And then how to bring God in the workplace. And so I'm going to also say, if you don't have a job, it doesn't matter. You need to bring God wherever you are, all the time, everywhere. And you don't have to have a big, huge crucifix on your chest, or a hat. Those things are good. I got a crucifix in my pocket, and I never leave home without it. So God's always with me, not just in this crucifix, right, but right here, because he said he would be. So let me talk a little bit, real quick, about what was happening before 2008, which is when I came into the church and when I got married. A lot of things were happening. But we're all here this morning, and I thanked you for it, but that's why we're here. And so who cares where everybody else is? If they didn't come, it's okay. And I'm not talking about the size of this room. Because we're here. And that's as big as we could ever imagine, because one life and one person can make a change. And so you holding these events. I know Jesse Romero is here. We've had the privilege of becoming friends with Jesse. He's been on our show twice. One of them, 10,000 some odd views. We're not trying to become YouTube sensations, because we're not. But it's amazing to see there's a thirst out there. But really, we're just trying to point people this direction. Do as Mary did, right? Just point to Jesus. And so, thank you again for being here. So let me get into my story. Before 2008, and before I was even thought of, when my mom was 14 years old, and she was in whatever grade you're in 14, and probably about 8th or 9th grade, right? And her dad died. I never got to meet him. His name is Gene Lloyd Sr. Never got to meet him. He would have been my grandpa, right? 39 years old, he had a heart attack. He drank, he smoked. He had lots of problems. And it broke my mother's heart. She was a middle child, and she has an older brother and a younger brother, and it crushed her. She was a daddy's girl. So at 16 years old, she was promiscuous. She slept with many people. I'm going to be raw with you, okay? I'm just going to tell you the truth. She had multiple partners. She didn't know who my dad was. She was scared. She was lonely. There was a guy, and that guy ended up being my dad. His name is Eddie Martin. I love him to the ends of the earth. I always will. He gave me my life. He was scared too. My mom was very, very poor. She still is. Has a problem with alcohol. My dad was not poor. He came from lots of money. Now, I wasn't raised in money. I was raised very poor. The very first house I remember as a child was a dirt floor. And that was the environment I was raised in. My mom was beat up constantly. She was crying all the time. I remember I have 2 half-brothers. Same mom, different dad. I remember holding both of their ears as hard as I could against my sides and holding my hands over their ears so that Daryl, my stepdad, who was beating my mother in the other room, so those boys couldn't hear it. And gosh, I was probably 7, 8 years old. I had to be the man in the house because he wasn't there. I remember standing out in the field when I was just 16 years old and looking up at the stars. There was a party, people were drinking. I was probably one of them. But I remember standing out there saying, Lord, when are you going to give me my father? And he said to me, I'm right here. It was the best feeling in the world. Thanks. Sorry. Excuse me. I'll keep my composure, I promise. But fast forward a little bit, from that 16-year-old kid, I went to College Station chasing a girl, not college. I ended up there, and I was doing all the wrong things. I was in a dark place. I needed family, I needed love. My mom loved me, but I lived in more houses with more people than I can ever recall, ever. So the house I live in right now, I was just telling somebody I'm so proud of it. My rent's $350. It's hot in the summer and cold in the winter. And it's 2 bedrooms, and we got 6 girls, and we're just having the time of our life. But I've never lived in another place longer in my life than I live in the house I live now in Rowena, Texas. 4 years. 4 years. And people look at us like, are you nuts? Are you crazy? I've never lived in a house more than 4 years in my entire life. We've been married, my wife and I, 13 years. I know I'm jumping on. I'll get back to when I was 16 and what happened to follow. But we've been married 13 years. We've moved 13 times because of work. All I've ever known is being a nomad. Just being, when I was younger, just kind of a feather on the wind. And we didn't go to church, but I found friends in my life that did. And I started attaching myself to them. And then I heard about God. And so I was at the 16-year mark, right? And I'll jump back. It was April 20th, 1992. And I told my mom, I remember 10 years old and what I was going through, right? I remember telling my mom, I want to know more about Jesus, because I went to a friend's house and we went to church and I was like, what is this? Peace and love, togetherness, husband and wife in the home. They sat down and had dinner at the table together. So April 20th, 1992, she took me to this church, Forest Branch Baptist Church, Livingston, Texas. And I went up to the altar and I said, like I knew it more than anything in my life, I want Jesus to be in my life and to be my Lord and my Savior. You've heard these things before in the Protestant sense, right? But I made that commitment at 10 years old. You know who my mom had to go talk to find out what the heck to do about this guy I wanted to know named Jesus? She had to go talk to the neighbor. His name is Wayne Harris. I didn't bring it today. I usually bring it as a prop in RCIA. It's an old King James Version Bible. But Wayne Harris gave me that Bible, and it says my name in it, says the date, says Wayne, Betty, and their daughter's name in it. Well, what's important about that is Wayne was my dad's next door neighbor when I was 10 years old. My mom didn't know that. I didn't know that, but the man who pointed my mother where to go to find out more about Jesus was my dad's next door neighbor. How incredible does God work in our life, right? And I didn't know this till way later. So, okay, so I got to know Jesus, and as I got a little older, I did things I shouldn't. I drank. I hung around the wrong people. I was just lost. Then I chased this girl to College Station, and we dated 3 years, and I had premarital sex. I was doing bad things. And I just said, I don't know what to do anymore. All I want's a family, and she doesn't even really love me, and I knew it. So we broke up. So I said, no girls ever again in my life. I'm done. I'm just going to be single forever. I saw what my mom went through. I don't even know how to be a good father, good husband. I'm just going to try to take care of myself. I started going to church there again in College Station. Then I met this girl, and her name is Fallon. She had good old country boy values like me, or so I thought. My life still wasn't straight. We conceived a child. His name is Kyler. He'll be 18 this year. And it's everything in the world I could do to be his father. But I won't bore you with all the details, but the cards were stacked against me. And I haven't seen Kyler since he was 5 years old. And I stand before you today just know that I love him, and I did everything in my power. I'm not embarrassed by my life and what's happened in it. But what I'll tell you is if you make poor decisions, poor things are going to happen. It's not God's design. Why did I date Fallon after I said I wouldn't? Because all I wanted was a family. All I wanted was to be a father, to show a child what I never had. And so I was on a journey to fatherhood, and I didn't know it. I thought I knew it, but I knew it my own way. I was in my own way the whole time. So we broke up because she left me, and I had no options. So I said again, I will never, ever date. Thanks for laughing, because God was laughing at me too, so you're just being like Christ right now. And lo and behold, if I didn't meet this girl. And my life was like this. I mean, just like, I can't go any higher, I can't go any lower, but that was it. And I met this girl, Melissa. She had missed Mass one time. Hear me clearly. Don't ever make an excuse again. You understand? I'm being real with you. I'm going to tell you like it is. She missed Mass one time in her life. And that's true still to this day. Okay? I had no idea what I was looking at. Like, who are you? She was a virgin. She had a chastity card in her purse. And she was saving herself. Her parents weren't divorced. She was Catholic, and I'm like, what is that? I remember seeing like what I thought was like a hand washing bowl at my friend Ricky's house when I was in school, but never had I experienced anything like this. And around this time, I met my dad. I was about 22 years old. One of the greatest experiences of my life. And a lot of things were happening. I forgave my mother. And that was another, I could say time and time again, greatest days of my life. I called my mom one day, and I told her, Mom, I forgive you. We hadn't talked in years. I had to call my grandma to find her phone number. I'm close to my mom now. I love her. I had to call my Meemaw and say, what's her phone number? I called her, and I just said, Mom, I gotta do this. And you may not like what I'm about to say, but I forgive you for everything that you've done that's impacted my life, that I know of. But Mom, I forgive you for everything that you've done in your life that I have no idea about. And I knew it was God who came to me and told me to do that day, because I would have never thought about that second part, to forgive her for everything that I don't know that she's done, right? I don't even know about it. But what I realized later, it was her opportunity to forgive herself. And so when we look at the cross, and I look at my background and what I've been through, who cares? God doesn't. That's the past. I've given it all to him. First confession was long. And he took it all away. But he doesn't care, because he saved every single one of us, right, when he did that. So thanks for letting me jump around. Thanks for following. I appreciate it. Story makes sense to me. So forgiving my mother, living through that experience, meeting my dad, and understanding where you come from, it's a big deal. And so many people, they say, well, I know where I come from. I'm cradle Catholic. Joe had it. He had a lineage. His brother's a priest. I could keep going. I didn't have that, and I was broken. But I met this girl, Melissa, and she was, in my eyes, perfect. And I literally told her, I left my watch at a friend's house. She brought it over. We're in College Station. I'm like, why is she coming over to my house? No, she's beautiful, drop dead gorgeous. She's sitting at the dining room table. I'm over there making eggs, and I just turned and looked at her, and I said, you know I'll never date you, right? Out of nowhere, I say this. And as ugly as I am and as pretty as she is, she probably thought I was the dumbest guy she'd ever met, and I thought that would have been the end of it. But the reason I said that is I wasn't trying to be holier than thou. I was dead serious. For everything that I'd went through, for all the brokenness I had seen, she deserves the best. But doesn't God?
Is she your wife?
She is. You're running my story. No. Yeah, girlfriend, wife, same person. So she took it in stride. She took it well. We were friends, and she had been dating a guy for over 3 years at the time, and their families go back generations. And I thought, yeah, well, I'm not going to interrupt that, because she was dating somebody when we first met. But she would never, ever go outside of her relationship. And she never did. And I never treated her like a girlfriend. She was always a friend to me. One day she comes to me and she says, this is Melissa, who is, yes, now my wife. She said, well, I'm breaking up with Keith. Well, we'd become best friends, honest to goodness, purely best friends. And she said, I'm breaking up with Keith. And I thought, well, I said, why are you telling me this? But things just weren't right in the relationship. And eventually, we became boyfriend and girlfriend. And sorry to drag that story on, but let me tell you, I moved a bunch. You saw my timeline, it was going like this. When I met her, I had just met my dad. I pulled a book off the shelf called 20,000 Denominations. I had my grandparents, who I barely knew. The largest chapter of that book was like half the book, and it was Roman Catholicism. And I like history, and I started reading it, and I was like, I see this girl, she's Catholic. Did they even know Jesus? And I knew quickly, after knowing her, that us Catholics do know Jesus very well. And I saw this book that talked about the history of it, and I thought, wow, I've got to look into this. So I became Catholic. And I actually told Melissa, I said, hey, if this thing doesn't work out, I'm Catholic. So it worked out. I'm Catholic. Life is good. Came into the church, Easter 2008. It snowed like the dickens that day. I give my testimony. Joe puts up a meme and an interruption and said, yeah, hell froze over. So my testimony is online. It's not a shameless plug. It's just a plug. But yeah, so it was a great day. But the night before I came into the church, and I'm telling you all this because we're talking, I'm gonna round it out, okay? Being godly parents, godly grandparents, a godly spouse, and bringing God wherever you are, including the workplace, school, everywhere, not just these walls. So right before I came into the church, it was a week before Easter. Think about that week, Easter week. It's powerful. It's very powerful. My mother-in-law, Fran, she was telling me what every day meant. And she said not only that, but she's like, do something about it. So all of these days, I'm just getting immersed into Catholicism a week before I come into the church. And I'm sitting there with Melissa, and I actually started to cry. And it was just really strange. I don't cry a whole lot, y'all, okay? You've seen it already, and you just barely met me, but I'm serious. I'm not lying to you. I don't cry all the time. So I said, you taste, you see, but I don't. And I've had so much missing in my life. I'm going to become Catholic, but I've been to church before. I've gone to Mass now. But what I didn't realize was what was to come that night when I went to bed. So, not at her house. We didn't cohabitate. But I had a dream, and I woke up in a cold sweat. That's not a figure of speech. I woke up, my bed was soaked, and I just thought everything that just flashed in my dream right before my eyes. There was a stairwell as far as you could see, as if I was in like a New York City subway. Never been there, but I've seen it on TV. And stairs as far as I could see. Handrails. Got the picture? The Pope. Now, I came in 2008, but all I knew was John Paul II. That's it. And then I saw on the face of the Pope, who was Benedict, I always want to say Ratzinger. But I saw both their faces. But what I couldn't really make out was what he was holding up. And it was the Eucharist. In my dream, and I can't help it, we all dream things, right? We can't help what we dream. This is what I saw. He was coming up the stairs at me, and I was like, no, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy, in my dream. And there's these handrails, and he just kept passing through it like a ghost, coming straight for me. Did you realize that the Catholic faith, Christianity, I took philosophy and religion. Doesn't make me an expert, but what I do know is our faith is the only faith in the world where the God seeks the follower. The only faith. It's incredible. God was seeking me this whole time through when I was a child, when I was with my parents, when I was holding my brother's ears, when I forgave my mother. There was even a time when I forgave my stepdad, Daryl. Standing on a porch of terror, at 16 years old, I drove 3 hours to go back to my hometown to tell him, I forgive you for everything that you've done to me. At 16. I'm blown away by the story, But forgiveness is awesome and it's incredible. And let me tell you why I talk about forgiveness when I'm talking about being godly. Because if you don't know that you're loved by Jesus, I ain't afraid to tell you. But if you don't know that, nothing else matters. You'll never make it to second base. You'll never make it to step 2. This is it. Yeah, second base is not where you kiss your girlfriend. I saw the 2 young boys in the back smiling because we're kind of immature sometimes. So. But that's it. Like, this is why we live, accepting love. And when you don't have it, like I didn't when I didn't have a dad, and I know many of us have different stories. Divorce, over 52% of all marriages end in divorce. Doesn't matter your religion. That's the stat. We're all affected by it, are we not? It's all around us. Our kids are in school with those who are afflicted by this disease of divorce. It's sad, but it's the truth. It's what we live in. And if you try to live it by your own design, that's where you end up. And if you try to live it by God's design and you end up divorced, there's grace in the suffering, okay? There's grace in it. Don't ever choose it if you can help it, but there's grace in it. So I'm telling you about forgiveness because I still to this day, well, I know why. My wife's not perfect, but I thought that she was. But for her to accept me and love me, knowing there was a little child involved in this scenario when she took to me, when Melissa, who's now my wife, told me that she loved me, I thought, how in the world can you say this to me? I'm broken. I come with baggage. I have no family. I can't give you grandparents. I had none of this. It was just me, and she loved me. And so my life was like this. I met my wife, and it was like this. And then, you know what's funny is she said, when I met you, my life went like this. Thought, well, yeah, I told you it was going to be an adventure. We moved to Houston. Oh, goodness gracious. We got out of there as fast as we could. But, you know, from not having a family, I wrote down all kinds of stuff today. I've been talking, and I don't think I've touched on anything, but my name is Chris. I'm 40 years old. Because all I could think was to tell you who I am. Because we've all been through something, or we know somebody who has. And it's the truth within us that connects us. We got to stop being afraid. We got to stop being afraid. Seriously. But one of the things that's so different about the 3 of us even is how we evangelize. So it's really what made Rome Boys organic and exciting, because we didn't know what the heck the other person was going to say when we got on the set. We tried to script it one time. It was terrible. Now, the rest may be terrible too, but I know why that one was terrible, because we tried to write it down, and it was not good. And so it was organic, it was natural, and we all come from different places and have different stories. But one thing that Joe said, that if I don't drive it home to you today, I will be in remiss. I will feel terrible. Joe said some of the greatest words that you may hear for the rest of your life. I'm giving him a lot of credit right now. KLS. To know God, to love God, and to serve Him. Why? So we can be with Him in the next, right? So we've got our daughters. It's the beginning of last year, 2021. They're all sitting in my living room, and I said, we're going to have a mission statement. I pounded into their head, before you go to bed every night, if you don't know, like if your day was good or why you're here or if you're struggling with something, just remember, look up at the bunk bed above you and just say, okay, God, I know I'm here to know you, love you, and serve you. Please help me. Good night. Thank you for this day. It's that simple. Every morning I wake up, I'll get to the kids on the floor telling you the story, January 2021, but every morning when I wake up, it's, Lord, thank you for this day, and I give it to you and everything in it. It's that simple. It's changed my life. It's been remarkable. So, okay, January 2021 had all the girls sitting out on the floor, Melissa sitting there in the rocker, holding the little baby, and I said, we're going to have a family mission statement. So I wanted to bring that to you today. And I want to encourage you and challenge you. There's only so many little things that you can do that become routine in your life. And if you have a foundation, such as Catholicism, you can bring that everywhere you go. In our family, we created a family mission statement, and it is to genuinely serve, to bring joy, my girls do a great job of that, and to live life to the fullest. Now that last one might sound secular to you, but it's not. God built us for greatness. Every single one of you. So I work in nursing homes, and there's folks that live there that have been there for 25 years. No family. God built them for greatness too. Whatever your ails, whatever your station in life, whether you make a lot of money, a little money, a bunch of money, or no money at all, you all know that that doesn't matter, right? That's it. You're all built for greatness. I like Jim Rohn. He said, ships were made for sailing. Planes were made for flying. Houses were built to be lived in. And you too were built for a purpose, which is greatness. Now, whatever it is in your way, forget about it. Actually, don't forget about it. Put it right in front of you. Write it on a piece of paper. I don't care what you have to do. Really, you need to take it to the confessional. But in order to get there, you got to forgive yourself first. You've all made mistakes. Forget about it. You know what's cool about God in the confessional? He has the power to forget. I don't know if you've ever heard that before. God has the power to forget. And so in persona Christi, that priest, you may not want to go to him because you see him around town, at church. Shame on you. I'm going to leave a little pause here. And the reason I say that is because you're not accepting the sacrament that Jesus instituted and gave to us. Forget about that, y'all. Forget about it. I want to see more people in line at communion. At confession than communion. You knew where I was going. There's many times I'm still in the pew. My girls, they're going up there, but I may not. It sets a great example. They ask me, why, Dad, did you not go up there? Did you kill somebody? Can't tell. But you got to start by forgiving yourself. And then you can be an example for other people. Reason that people don't try to share their faith? Fear of failure, number one reason people don't set goals. But also because we don't want to be hypocrites, right? What if I didn't tell you all the story I told you today? What if I didn't tell you about the fact that I had a kid out of wedlock? That's pretty embarrassing stuff. But you know what? It's the truth. I made mistakes. Sin affects all of us, and I'm sorry I sinned because it affects you too, because we're a united church. But confession got rid of it. You're welcome. So we have a great commission, though. And you can't live out that great commission. You won't have the strength or the courage in the classroom, with your friends. And I am going to come off with some of my notes on some of these other things because I do want to help you to understand that you can still be normal, whatever that means, and accepted in circles. And you don't have to be, we interviewed Father Donald Calloway. You don't have to be praying the rosary, all day long. Go get some meat, go use the restroom, get back on the rosary all day long, right? We've got to feed ourselves. We've got to feed our families. We've got to get out into the world and do what the word mass means, to go forth, okay? So the Great Commission, though, we're all here. I was going to ask you guys, I was going to make you answer, but I did you the favor and didn't make you participate. But I was going to ask you, why are you here? Some of you came because somebody asked you to be here. Some of you came because, you're going through confirmation and you said, we're asking the confirmation students, you better be there, Some people have other things that they could be doing. You got maybe somebody in your house that might not be here, right? But you got to show up every single day. So getting into taking God wherever you are, whether it's being a parent, a spouse, in the workplace, I had an awesome experience. I was working at the nursing home, had a crucifix that Tony bought me in Italy, Benedictine, and it's awesome. But I was just being myself all the time, not using foul language, participating in stupid jokes, sexual innuendos, things like that. And I remember I walked up to a group and they're like, oh, no, don't say anything. Chris is here, don't be cussing. I never outwardly said anything about like, you got to love Jesus, you got to do that. It's amazing what just simply not cussing and not participating in stupid jokes and talking bad about people, just the basics. People know that there's something more that's got you. And when you're normal and you're enjoying life, you know, like our mission statement in our family is live life to the fullest. We want to. God has created a great opportunity for us all to experience his world for his purpose, right? So I saw that and I was like, what are these people, like, am I a holy roller? You don't have to be a holy roller. Matter of fact, it might turn some people away. So the other experience with that crucifix hanging on the wall, I remember I had somebody who was very angry at me. And they came into my office, and I was their supervisor. And they walked in, and I remember they were storming. I had heard that this person was going to come in my office that day, and they came in, and they were just about to, and they saw the crucifix. I watched their eyes look at it, and that's all it took. And I said, I'll never not be in an office where that crucifix doesn't hang right over my head, because he protected me that day, and he changed their heart. It's very simple. The things that, I carry this cross in my pocket because if I die, I don't want people to know me for this because that's the only thing in my possession or my cell phone. This is what I want to be known for. And it's not because I wear it right here. That's okay. I do have a cross that I wear on my neck too. I got a shirt that says Be Catholic real big on it. But what I believe is that these topics, being godly in any way, it's about knowing that you're loved. Living life to the fullest. Experiencing what life has to offer. And taking God everywhere you go. Guess what's funny about that comment? He's actually carrying you. It's like the footprints in the sand. So, but we do have a great commission. I'm going to read it to you now. Matthew 28:16. Then the 11 disciples. One's missing, right? Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Sound familiar? Then Jesus came to them and said, All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go, make disciples of all nations, you've heard this before, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And this is a really cool part. And surely, I am with you always to the very end of the age. Now, Joe asked you a very compelling question. His first thing right out of the gate. Didn't introduce himself. He didn't go into anything about Rome Boys. He went right into it. And he said, who here believes that Jesus died and rose again? A lot of hands went up. But why? Why? Well, let me say this. If you don't believe what Jesus said, you know that this book has been printed more than any book in human history. That's kind of compelling. Sounds like evidence to me. People are interested. The second most printed book is Homer's Iliad. That's just too much reading. I can probably bet Joe hadn't read it. And I forget the figures on it, but it's like millions and billions actually of copies of this. And I don't even think a million copies of the next book. So if you don't believe that God is with you always, to the very end of the age, then you're not going to be bold. You're not going to be real. And if your friends are having sex, and they shouldn't be. If they're cohabitating, living together, and you don't say something, guess what Ezekiel 3:18 says? If you don't say something, the blood's on your hands. It's your fault. That's what it says. The book that's been printed more than any other book in the world. And it also says there's a major problem. That sin doesn't just kill one person's soul. Ezekiel 3:18, look it up. It kills yours too. And theirs, right? Two people. Now, if you say something, then the blood is no longer on your hands. But you've got to live a simple life. It gets too complex. It gets hairy, right? But if you're not living out the Great Commission, you're not doing what God commanded in all his authority on heaven and earth. One of the things that we talk about at Rome Boys is being bold. So, we like to challenge people. And, that's what the homily is actually supposed to be. It's a reflection on the readings to help us understand, and this goes way back to the beginning of time, of Christianity, but it's actually a challenge. That's why the Mass, what does the deacon say usually at the end? The Mass is over, go in peace, or what's the other one? Well, you're about to be a deacon, Frank, come on. Yeah, right. And that's what we're supposed to do. The Mass means go forth, so do it. So Joe talked about after Acts retreats, generally, things kind of fizzle out. And we seem like we're lost or we're not on track. So get a good routine. And, I made the comment in the back when Joe said, should you kiss your spouse in front of your kids? And I was like, yeah! Well, Mark Hart does say to do that in his book, so I think it's decent advice. But you've got to have that routine in your life. And you've got to set that example. And, guys, I said it's not really difficult. I think we overcomplicate this stuff. I really do. I think one of the things, though, that we forget about is joy in the midst of it all. And our joy has been crushed over the last couple of years. I think we're doing a good job coming out of it. But we've been separated in some ways. Can't see our friends and our family. I told you I work in nursing homes. It was very sad early on. Nobody could come in, not even churches. They couldn't have Mass. They couldn't have communion. This is the world that we lived in. So it's very simple. So we're in the entertainment age, right? But love conquers all. Not cell phones, not YouTube, not whatever the latest app is. Love conquers all. So here's what I'm saying. As parents and godparents, or grandparents, godparents too, why not? All you have to do is have basic conversations. It's amazing. In this book right here, it talks about winning back your children. This is a 5-minute devotional that I used to read every single day with our staff in the workplace. Anybody who didn't want to be there, didn't have to be there. And it's just real short. But we had that routine. People came to me and shared some stuff I didn't want to hear, but hey, they needed to share it, and we got through it together. But people love stories. And so just because we're trying, we mentioned like put down the phone, Joe says. There's not an empty space there. What there is conversation. And it's actually not that hard to start with your spouse or your kids or your grandkids. Just have a simple conversation with them. I was embarrassed one day because my daughter came up to me with a $20 bill in her hand. And I was working so hard at this time. And she thought that I was spending all my time chasing money. She came to me and she said, Daddy, can we play? Very tough to hear, So what you spend your time on, a great quote is, you are what you think about all day long. Kind of like you are what you eat. You are what you think about all day long. That was Claire. She's a handful. She's awesome. She surprises me all the time. And that, I called the guy that I work with and I said, I need help. I can't do all this anymore by myself. And I came to a breaking point where I didn't know if I was going to be able to continue to do the work that I do. I loved it. I'm called to do it. But that almost put an end to all of it. And so what I'm saying, guys, is don't let that point come up, gals, mothers, grandmothers. So what I realized is my kids love stories. We've all got stories. One of the greatest things, what I used to say, like when I was a kid, like, what do you like to do? Hang out with my friends. Cell phones didn't exist. I know I look like I'm 18, but when I was a kid, cell phones didn't exist. What do? We hung out and we talked. That's what we've done for generations upon generations. And now it's just, next quick flick, next quick video, shorts, YouTube shorts, TikTok, it's all there. So here's what is happening. It's separating the parents from their kids. It really honestly is. You know what's so easy with 6 kids? Here's a device. I got to go cook supper. It's real simple, right? I'm not saying it's terrible. We do it too. I stand before you. That's my witness. But we do put limits on things. But we don't just say, you can't do this. We learned a long time ago that just saying no doesn't really help. I say, hey, do this. Or, I need your help over here. You know what I was actually surprised with is my kids love to help me do everything that I'm involved in. Can I go with you, Daddy? Or, we're going to go feed the cows. Can I go? Can I go? Then they realize, they're like, no, I don't think I want to go. But we have one goal with our spouse, right? Joe told you, so I'm going to go ahead and make you answer that question. What's your goal?
To get your spouse to have
Thank you for participating. I appreciate it. Yes, you are right. You're right. You can take anything free that's on that table. It's true, but it's also your role as a parent. Joe, I love the quote from Scripture in Proverbs that you said. I'm going to add another one from Proverbs. Raise your children up in the way they should go, and if you do, they will not depart from it. I also believe that we're called to be priest, prophet, and king because Scripture says so. So we're not called to just, yes, the family is the domestic church. That's our first priesthood. But you are the average of the 5 people you hang around. My goal is to be like the low man on that totem pole. I want to hang around people that are better than me. That's why I married my wife. She brought my real estate up way high. But, all of what I'm saying today is real simple. Knowing God, loving God, and serving God. That K, I brought this for one reason. It's marked in one place because everything that I'm saying could be summed up right here. Ephesians chapter 5. It's real short, super duper short. If you don't remember anything else besides KLS, I hope you remember everything Joe said. But chapter 5, right there, that's it, right there. That's it. It's everything you need to know. Now there's more to the story and you can't help but dive deeper. But it says things like, it literally says, don't laugh at other people's jokes that are profane and immoral and impure. Did you know that, talking about impurity, you get them used to these devices, our kids. 78% of every single internet search since the internet was founded and invented, 78% of all searches are pornography. 22% left for the rest of us. That is scary. That's disgusting. It's terrible. And that's the world we live in. It's pretty crazy. But, you can fall victim to anything, especially if somebody else is controlling it. Okay, so our kids have inquiring minds, and we need to tell stories. We do that often at night. They're always asking me, and a lot of times I'm tired, and I can admit a lot of times I've said, no, I'm too tired, and it's 9 o'clock, we got to go to bed. But they always say, tell me a story about when you were a little kid. And I always say, when I was a little girl, because they're all little girls, and then I'm like, wait, maybe in these times that's not what I should start with. They stop it, Dad, stop it. Ooh, that's weird. But it makes such a great connection with them. They really start to look up to you. You remember how you thought your parents knew everything? That's just kind of common knowledge. Like, your parents know everything. How do they know that I snuck out the window? I didn't leave any evidence. But is that going to be the truth anymore in the future? If their information is coming from a device, is that going to be true? It's not going to be their magisterium. The church is not going to be their magisterium unless all they're looking at is stuff from the faith. If you're not the one feeding the information, you're competing in a world that we can't compete in. Rome boys, we thought we're behind. Who else is doing this? There's some other Catholic social media out there. But what we're doing, we didn't find it immediately. And we thought, we've got to get out there on the front lines. We've got to get to the front. And it's not easy. It's not easy standing up here and talking in front of you guys. It's not easy inviting people to something like this, because who knows if anybody's even going to show up? Whose faith is on fire? Who knows? Is it the people that show up? Is it people not? I don't know. But the number one reason people don't set goals, and you guys did this, which in my mind, that's like, okay, we're going to set a goal, we're going to mark a date. We had some challenges, things happen, and here we are today, but The number one reason people don't set goals? Fear of failure. Fear of failure. You know, in being outwardly Catholic, I've done it in simple ways. So I have these friends. We were on a cruise ship out in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, international waters, and we got paired with this couple, and this guy sitting across from me had on a Paint Rock Indians t-shirt. You know where Paint Rock is? Okay. And I said, I never met this guy in my life. Paired at the same table. And I was like, you know that's a real place, huh? Because it looked just like a cool vintage football shirt. And he's like, oh, yeah, no. So no, really, like there's a place called Paint Rock, Texas. They have the Paint Rock and the Indians. He's like, I know. My dad lives there. So, what? We're in the middle of nowhere, you know, I don't know, Bermuda Triangle, wherever, middle of the ocean, and I get to sit across from this guy. His name is Zane. And Zane was there with his wife. And we had the best time. And we actually took my wife's cousin and her husband, and we barely saw them. We got to know these folks and became great friends with them. They were Christian people, but they weren't Catholic. And that's okay, because we continued to be friends with them. And as time went on, we never pushed our faith on them. But they'd randomly ask a question about something. And I almost deflected it. Not to like be afraid to breach the topic, but just because I didn't want them to think that I was thinking that they were wrong for not being Catholic. That's really what was in my heart. But one day, he asked a question. I said, I can't even explain it. Matthew Kelly. It was a CD, and I just left it in their house. I said, hey, scratch it, tear it up, break it, whatever. I don't care, but if you want to give it back to me later, that's fine. Well, come to find out, a few years later, they had listened to it. Well, it wasn't but a few years ago that they came into the Catholic Church themselves, and every single one of their kids were baptized into the faith. And I couldn't hear enough about the Rosary and all of its miracles and the Eucharistic miracles. I mean, they were in love with the faith, and they're still Catholic to this day. I never met these people in my life. I didn't say, hey, we got to pray before you eat, you know, bless us, O Lord. I didn't do any of that. And that's okay. I mean, we prayed before our meal. But what I'm saying is, you never know, guys. You never know who God is going to put in front of you. When we walk out these doors after lunch today, just the simple kindness of a smile can change everything. Don't complicate this. Don't. How to be a godly parent, how to be a godly grandparent, a godly spouse, how to bring it into the workplace. Don't be afraid of being who you are. Be proud of who you are. Okay? You've got the truth. I don't know if you've heard Matthew Kelly say it, but did you know that the Catholic Church has clothed more people, taken care of more people in hospitals than anybody else? Any other institution. And I could go on and on and on. They fed more people than anybody in the world. That's who you are. That's not what you belong to. That's who you are because of whose you are and what he started. The race isn't over. Did you know that you are part of salvation history? Your story is part of that story. So be bold. It's okay, guys. Be Catholic. I'm talking to you three right now. And I'm sure most of your friends probably already know that you are. And so when stupid stuff comes in front of you, just don't participate. My wife has asked me so many times why I have the friends that I have. Well, going through high school, I didn't have anybody. All I had were the people that I thought would accept me. Because as a teenager, all you want to do is be accepted. Truth be told. And so Josh, not Catholic, one of my best friends, he'd do anything for me. But he didn't bring me closer to God intentionally. Little did he know that our walk would lead me closer to God and to the faith, because there were things that he participated in that I was a part of that I shouldn't have been. And so even in those struggling times, the most of it was made by God. But just be yourself. You don't have to do what other people do. It's okay. Be weird. If you want to live like nobody else, which means go to heaven, then you got to live like nobody else. See what I mean? See what I did there? No. One of the things that we say at Rome Boys after every show is be bold. Be real. Be Catholic. God bless. Maybe you've heard that hopefully 100 times or so. But we mean it. Just be real with people. Imagine this, and this will be my last story. You'd think I were a Baptist preacher. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story. Follow me, and then I'll be done. All right, so there's this girl. I told you about some dates that I had and girls that I had dated. So I never told her that I loved her, and I never held her hand. I didn't really want to look at her in the eyes. I didn't go visit her family. Didn't take her to the movies. Didn't, feed her good food. Didn't buy her flowers. Didn't buy her clothes. Really didn't have a whole lot of conversation or alone time with her, where we just got to enjoy each other's company, or didn't pray for her. And, I didn't want to break up with her. Gosh, I didn't want her to break up with me. Why would she love me? Does that make any sense? Well, let me ask you a question. When you look at that person in the mirror, how much credit do you give that person? How much do you love that person in the mirror? How much do you think about how much God loves you? All those analogies that I just gave you, that wasn't a true story. That was just a fable to get you to think about, if you don't do these things for other people, right? If I wouldn't do this for this girl that I made up, you're not doing these things for yourself. You're not enjoying your family time, alone time with God. You're not taking care of yourself. And I do mean eating right and exercising. I do mean reading the Bible. I do mean going to Mass. If you don't pour into yourself, none of us stand a chance. Right? So don't neglect yourself. God made you as the temple, His temple, and He's right inside of you. So you've got to honor yourself. So I bring it full circle. So we may not think that we're the best parents or grandparents, or that we do the best in the workplace or out in public. But there's a reason why. We don't want to be hypocrites. Okay, we have confession. No other faith has confession like we do. Forgive yourself. That's what I'm here to tell you today. Thank you.